GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Hey, this is H.C. Loke. You're checking out the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robbie Vegas.
What's up, rock soldiers? This is the rockstar Robbie Vegas with another brand new episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. We hope you guys liked our Halloween special last week, and this week we are bringing you Cerin Rahne, a fresh face to the independent wrestling scene, trained by ECW and Ring of Honor original H.C. Loke. I'm really looking forward to this. I did get a chance to work with him in a 5-man scramble this past year in March, and I loved the kid immediately. So respectful, awesome worker already, and like I said, still so new to the game, so he's only going to get better from here. And this is going to be his first podcast ever, and I'm really excited to be the one to bring that to you, and I hope that you guys enjoy it and enjoy his stories and learning about him a little more, because I'm going to want you to follow him when this is all said and done and just watch for him. He's on the rise, and I know that all my wrestling fans out there, you guys will not be disappointed. So before I get him on the phone, today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add our podcast in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. All right, guys, let's get Mr. Rahne on the phone.
A classic killer completes the cast. If evil saw the rage, cut to the close-up, then fade to black. Sit back for the sequel of your dreams. All psychos crave more shocking scenes. Who cares if it bleeds beyond the screen? Are you misunderstood? Are you more bad than good? Welcome to Horrorwood, where anyone would kill through.
Hey everybody, this is Lauren Marie Taylor, creator and host of the Not the Final Girl podcast. Okay, so every horror fan remembers the final girl, right? You know, the one who can outrun and outsmart the Jasons, the Michaels, the Chuckies. I think you get it. But what about the girls and, yeah, the guys who met with an untimely end? Those of us who were tortured and tripped, dragged and killed. Don't we deserve some props? As Vicky in Friday the 13th Part 2 and Sheila in Girls Night Out, I know what a drag it is to succumb to those masked and wardrobe-challenged killers, to not be the final girl. On my new podcast, I'll be chatting with other women of horror who share the same fate. Special guests include those final girls as well as the writers and directors who created our characters, only to give us an early expiration date. And if they play nice, we'll let some of those crazed killers of horror tell their side of the story. So join me, Lauren Marie Taylor, on the Not the Final Girl podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you get the alerts when the episodes drop. Thanks for listening. Keep your doors locked and stay out of the woods.
Today's episode is brought to you by Anguished Allure magazine. Anguished Allure was founded in Buffalo and celebrates Halloween all year long. Anguished Allure magazine features gothic and horror-themed businesses, artists, and photographers. If you'd like to buy a copy and support them, or submit your own artwork or products, please reach out to them at anguishedalluremagazine.com. So one more time, that's anguishedalluremagazine.com. So please check them out, support our sponsor, and they're more than a sponsor. We absolutely adore this magazine, and we know that you will too. All right, so we're here, Mr. Cerin Rahne. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you, Robbie?
I'm not bad. I'm on the mend, and things are great. And, I'm happy to be doing this with you, man.
I'm happy to be here. I'm not going to lie. First podcast I've ever done. I'm a little nervous. You got me following PJ Farley, Lauren Taylor, D. Snyder. How can I follow these names?
Well, I picked you because I know that you can. And even just, I met you just recently this year, back in March. We were in a match together. And,
it was a very fun match.
Oh, that was so much fun, and it was my introduction to you. I never met you before that day. I never saw your work, and I walked out of that match extremely impressed by you all around.
Oh, it means a lot to me. I love that.
Oh, trust me, man. Like, that was one of my first matches back since, the pandemic, and to get in there with a bunch of guys that I didn't know and to have such a great experience was really awesome. But you really stood out to me, and, I took your finish, and I loved it, and I was like, this kid's going to be something, and I got to have you on the show.
That means a lot. Honestly, when I found out I was working you that night, I was a nervous wreck, because I'm like, holy crap, this guy's been in forever, and I get to wrestle him? What if I fall down on my face? More than already.
Well, you did not, and I was super, super happy with that, and I want to face you one-on-one so bad, just because we got that little taste, and I was like, oh, we can have a banger.
I'm still waiting for that to happen.
We're going to keep pushing for it. Every promoter that talks to me, I'm going to be like, you know who I want to face? So listen, man, tell me, first of all, thank you for being, nervous to get in the ring with me. That makes me feel pretty good. I don't know if I deserve that, but I appreciate it. But how did you discover pro wrestling?
I was young. I think that's the story for all of us. We find it when we're young. The earliest memory I have, I was probably 6 or 7 at my grandma's house. Not entirely super close with my biological father, but the one thing that we did connect on was wrestling. And our favorite wrestler together was Rowdy Piper.
Oh,
that man was so glamorizing and charming and just hypnotic, and that was my first experience with professional wrestling at 6 years old, watching Rowdy Piper just decimate people in his crazy heel gimmick.
So if Roddy Piper, you say, is one of your biggest influences when you were a kid, as you're growing through the wrestling business, is he always, still that that's your top guy? Or did you, through the years, think, oh, wow, as times were changing, I really bite on this now or that now? How did that work for you?
Before I actually started, I always loved, it's always been Rowdy Piper. He's always been there. Mm-hmm. But as I grew, obviously as a kid and going into my teenage years and my young adult years, I was always idolized the Hardy Boys. I idolized the High Flyers and everything. I think everybody did. And then I started wrestling, and then all of a sudden my influences became Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, all those technical wrestlers that could take a wrist lock and make it the most entertaining thing you've ever seen.
Now, how old were you when you actually started training?
I started very late. I'm channeling my DDP here, and I started when I was 31 years old. I'm 32 today.
So you've been in the business for a year, or just over a year, we should say, right?
Yes, sir. Just a little bit over a year.
Now, that's amazing to me because working with you and seeing you work since then, you seem to have your own style, and you mentioned a lot of great wrestlers just there. And are you kind of taking what they do and putting your own twist on it? And if so, how are you able to be so creative so young in the business?
I think to answer that question, it takes a little bit of answering both those questions at once. I think to be successful in this business and being how it's been around forever, everything's already been done. So we need to take what's already been done and everybody puts their own spin on it. Everybody's seen the drop kick. Everybody has seen a power bomb. How are you going to make that different? And I kind of just lay in bed and think about this at night. How am I going to make my style different so I stand out? Okay,
very cool. Now, you are trained primarily by H.C. Loke. He's your main trainer, correct?
Yes, H.C. Loke is my head trainer. I've been under him for, like you said, about a year now, a little over a year.
And how did you find Loke to actually join his school and become one of his students?
Well, that's a funny story. TJ Epics, who has been also one of Loke's students for a number of years, going on to think about his second year, he's an amazing person. I love TJ to death. I knew him in college. I've known TJ for years, and the pandemic was happening, and I was kind of working from home, and I had a lot of time to kill, and he kept trying to get me to come to Lokes when he was training people in Sear. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. I'm working, man. And then eventually things fell into place where I could go to one of Lokes' trainings, and I was hooked. I've lived my past year in the ring, it seems about. I live, sleep, and eat it.
It seems like it, and that's just for knowing you a short amount of time, but you were immediately, like, respectful and out there and ready to learn, and you came up to me after our match, and the first thing you said was, what did you notice that I can improve on? And I feel like that's such a lost thing nowadays, and you and TJ and, like, you guys who are trained by Loke, you all have that, and he just commands that respect, and it's so refreshing to see you guys all carry that forward.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I always ask that question because everybody can ask, hey, what'd you like about it? What'd I do well? It's like, well, what do I need to work on?
No, I totally agree. I still do that. I faced Loke, 3 times in 2019 or 4 times or something like that. And after every single match, I'm 9 years deep, 10 years deep, whatever it was at the time. And I'm going, what do I do? What do you think? Throw stuff at me, change stuff for me, because he's a veteran guy who's been around a hell of a lot longer than me. So just throwing that out there for any young boys listening who don't have your attitude. So,
I'm sure there's a couple out there.
I'm sure. So listen, man, before we get too far into talking your career, I want to talk, before you got into the ring, what are some of your favorite matches that you can remember seeing growing up, just as a fan?
Oh, God. There's so many. I mean, you think back to Undertaker and HBK, and every single match they've ever put on has been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Macho Man and Steamboat, that is one of my most favorite matches of all time. I don't think that gets enough recognition that it should,
mm-hmm.
because it's just an absolutely beautiful match to watch. And anything the Hardy Boys, I'm not gonna lie, I still love me some Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy.
Oh man, I can't blame you. Can't blame you.
If I could do some of those things without dying that Jeff does, I would do them. But I also like breathing the way I do.
Yes, of course. No, were any of the matches that you just named, like, did one stick out to you that was like, I'm going to become a wrestler because this match?
Oh, 100%. It's the Steamboat Macho match from WrestleMania 3.
Oh, man. That's a match that gets talked about a lot, but still somehow seems underrated, if that makes any sense.
Oh, 100% sense. Every time I watch that match, I see something different. And now that I'm training, I see more and more different. I'm like, whoa.
Well, let me ask you, since you just said now that you started training, you're seeing things differently, what do you feel was the hardest part of actually getting started once you started training? Like, was it the bumps? Was it the ropes? Was it cutting a promo? Like, what do you feel when you got in there that you were like, oh man, this is going to be difficult for me?
The whole aspect of wrestling can be very difficult. Even today, I still think, well, this is hard. But for me, I was in the military for a number of years, so the fighting aspect of it, the learning how to do a wrist lock, a hammer lock, how to do this, that, and the third, has always been easier. I retain that. It's the promos that are hard for me, because believe it or not, I'm actually quite shy. So when somebody puts a finger or a camera in front of me and says, I need you to do a minute of this about this, and I just freeze.
Really? Okay. See, I wouldn't have guessed that, because like I said, you were so friendly back when we met in March, and you were very, engaging and easy to like talk to and put things together with. So that actually is shocking to hear that you're a shy person normally.
I get that a lot. I get comfortable very easily with people as soon as I meet them, but at first I'm that type that's kind of like standoffish. I will always introduce myself, say, hi, how are you? And then eventually I'll get comfortable enough to have good conversations, but I've had years of practice to get past that to the point where I can do it now very easily. Mm-hmm. But in my head, my anxiety is screaming at me, why are you doing this?
So did that come into play for you when you had your first match and you actually had to walk through that curtain?
I was a nervous wreck before I walked through that curtain. My knees were shaking. I felt like I was going to puke. I was sweaty. I was nervous as hell. And then for some reason, as soon as I stepped through the curtain, the moment, everything washed away. Every single nerve, the shaking, everything, it just washed away.
Now, are you anything like me, whereas even still, you'll still get some butterflies and some pre-match jitters right up until your music hits?
Yes, 100%. Until I walk out that corner, that curtain, I am a nervous wreck. I think I treat every match I have like a WrestleMania match, and Loke says it the best, that the moment I stop feeling like that is probably the moment I need to step away.
I 100% agree with him on that. I say that all the time because it means you care, you're passionate about it, and it matters so much to you. And that's the way that I've always looked at it, because after a few years, I was like, my nerves are never going to go anywhere before a match, and I just kind of made peace with that, and that it was a good thing, so I agree. So let me ask you this. So far, I know you have a young career still, but who are some of your favorite opponents that you've had up to now?
I've had a few really good ones that I loved. DJ, he's one of my favorite ones anytime I step in the ring with him, because we came up together. He's a little ahead of me, but I was right behind him, and we know each other so well that we just mesh so well in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely on there. You're one of them.
Oh, thank you.
You're so fun to wrestle. You make it so easy, and you make everything so comfortable.
I appreciate that.
I've wrestled Cam, Akasha Black. She's great.
Oh yeah.
I love wrestling her. I really and my one I've just been wrestling a lot lately has been Keenan Moore. So he's extremely fun to wrestle.
You know, I've only crossed paths with him in Rumbles, but I think I saw some clips of you two working recently, and it just looked like a match that I want to see.
Oh, it is. He's so fun to wrestle. He's got so much energy. I'm guessing that comes from, I'm assuming, all the candy, because I'm assuming where the Tasty Boy gimmick comes from.
I love it. All right, well, let's flip it this way now. Tell me some opponents that you'd like to face still that you haven't gotten a chance to mix it up with yet.
Oh, God, I have a book full of names, so I know it's going to be mean because I can't get to them all. So anybody who's listening to this that I don't name, I love you, and I want to wrestle you too. Obviously, you're on there. We got to have our one-on-one match that we've been fighting for forever. Vince Valor is on there. I've shared the locker room a number of times with him, and for some reason we just have never shared a ring yet. Anthony Gaines, we've had the pleasure of having a match, and it was an extremely fun match, but it is no longer in existence due to some backstage stuff that it's just bad stuff from the reason we lost our footage. So I'd love to get him back. God, I could go on and on. But those are some real guys that just step out. I mean, if I ever got the chance, and my dream match is Jonathan Gresham, just because I love the technical style, I love the chain wrestling, I love wrestling. Jonathan Gresham would be my end-all, be-all match. That would be my dream match. If I ever could have that on my record, on my resume, I'd be happy.
Oh, that's awesome. He's fantastic too, and that would be a killer match to see. We're gonna push this podcast out to him and be like, hey, check this out. So, again, we're gonna keep saying this just so people know, like, you are still about a year in. So how many states have you already wrestled in?
Let's see, I've been Jersey, PA, Tennessee, West Virginia. I got one coming up in November where I'll be in Ohio. It's just growing. I need to get one of those scratch-off things that they put on your wall.
Yeah.
Just when I go to a state, just scratch it off.
That's awesome, though, man. You're not afraid to get on the road, and, like, coming off of a pandemic to already have 5-6 states under your belt is pretty huge. So it just goes to show the drive that you have to be, great at this and to get out there and make a name for yourself.
I appreciate that. I mean, honestly, some of my favorite parts of wrestling is being on the road with people, getting in that car and just having the best time of our lives on a road trip.
Right. Yeah, I always look forward to those, obviously you look forward to your matches, but like the memories that you make while getting there are such a huge part of doing what we do. And I think that a lot of people on the outside might not know or realize that, but it's really important for us. So tell me, if this isn't too personal, what are some goals that you have set for yourself within the wrestling business? And if it's stuff that you want to keep to yourself, that's fine. You could just tell us and we'll take it off of the podcast. But if you could share some of that, that would be cool, man.
I think we all have goals. I don't really hide it. I mean, I'm an open book. I want to win championships. I want to make it to TV. I want to wrestle some names. I want to hone my craft to the point where a promotion can look at me and go, that is the guy. That is the guy who I can have faith in to put into the ring and he have a great match. Once I can do that and have that goal of being able to be trusted enough to be step foot in a ring and put on a match of any caliber, I think I can achieve anything else. I
love that, man. I keep telling you, I'm not just trying to blow smoke up your ass here. I really think that you're one of the biggest up-and-coming guys right now. And answers like that just solidify my thoughts.
I just think I'd speak from the heart on this, man.
Well, you told us about what your dream match would be, or who it would be against. What's a dream match that you wish you could see?
Oh, from anybody living or dead?
Yes.
Stan Hansen versus The Undertaker.
Wow. Somebody who's 32 years old just said Stan Hansen. I love that.
I did. I love Stan Hansen. Man who was blind as a bat and still took people's heads off with a lariat.
So you must find yourself like studying a lot of tape and like going back and watching pretty much everything then.
Yes. I think I spent a lot of my time doing just on YouTube looking up old matches because I think that wrestling is almost goes in a circle. Mm-hmm. We eventually start bringing back stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s. They start kind of circling back and getting popular again. So finding those moves from those time frames and figuring out how can I make this mine and going with that.
So how do you feel you're holding up right now following Dee Snider?
I hope I'm doing well.
I just want to throw you that quick curveball to see if you'd start to sweat.
I am sweating a little bit, but I'm doing all right.
So listen, let's take a curve away from wrestling for a quick second here. Well, kind of. This next question is more so on the music side, but what gets you amped up before a match or for a workout? Like, what are you listening to get yourself mentally in the zone?
Oh, right now I've been listening to, I love, my favorite band of all time is A Day to Remember. So I've been listening to a lot of them. They're my on repeat when I'm at the gym. I got into Ice Nine Kills. Those guys are awesome. I really love the horror movie aesthetic with their last two albums, the Silver Scream albums.
Yes.
I love that because I'm a horror movie geek too. I love horror movies. So incorporating heavy metal and horror movies into one, genius. How has that not already been done?
That's true. That's true. And I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I love music and I love horror movies, which is why Wednesday 13 is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Oh, I love Wednesday 13.
Oh, just the fact that you just said that, now I'm going to have to put one of his songs somewhere in this interview. We'll figure it out.
Please do.
All right, well, you kind of segued into my next question there too, though, because I wanted to ask you about horror movies, because I do know that you're a fan. And what were some of your favorite ones that you were watching this spooky season that just passed?
I think one of the most underrated movies I've seen is 13 Ghosts. Oh. I don't think that gets enough recognition as one of a great horror classics. I think, and those backstories of those ghosts alone could just be their own thing. It's an awesome movie. So that I've watched a few times. And I'm a geek for 80s slashers, especially when you get into those realms of the 80s slashers where they're so cheesy and bad that they're good.
Yep.
So I watched a lot of those. Like I watched Night of the Demon, the one with Shannon Elizabeth there.
Yes.
So bad, but it was so good.
I totally agree. So you're like the prime candidate to be on this podcast because you're a pro wrestler who loves rock and roll music and horror movies, and that's literally the only three things that we talk about ever on this show.
I'm perfect.
I got to ask you, though, what did you think of Halloween Kills?
You're going to kill me for this. I have not seen it yet.
Okay, I'm not going to kill you yet. It's going to depend on what you tell me about, after you've seen it.
I'm trying to get some time to see it. But between work and traveling every weekend to wrestle, it's a little hard.
Well, here's a curveball question for you. If I asked you to give me a Mount Rushmore of horror movie villains, who are your 4?
Oh, obviously you got to have Freddy Krueger on there. He's got to be my George Washington, of course. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Chucky.
All right, I can dig it. I'm a little upset Ghostface wasn't in there, but we're going to let it slide.
Ghostface is, if Chucky's head ever fall off, I'll see Ghostface up there. They're interchangeable.
Well, you know what then? Same question, but give me your top 4 wrestlers.
Roddy Piper, Sergeant Slaughter, that was 2. Steamboat, really love Steamboat, and it would put me on the spot here.
Yeah, I know. They're curveballs, man.
And I might get some flack for this, but I love Shawn Michaels, so he's on there.
Shawn Michaels is the sole reason that I became a professional wrestler, so that's a great answer to me.
and I love Shawn's story because it's similar to mine and the addiction aspect.
I wasn't sure if that's something that you wanted to go into or not, but, since you brought it up, is it okay to ask you, did wrestling help you with your addiction, or did this come way after?
So I found wrestling after I had the number of years sober underneath my belt, but at the same time, wrestling did save me because I was still struggling and not knowing why.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't using, I didn't want to use, but I was still struggling with the mental health portion of the things I was hiding from, the things I was running from.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the time when we're using drugs and alcohol, we're using them to hide from a dark part of ourselves. And when you take the thing we're covering that with and not working on it, it's still there. So when I found wrestling, I found something that was helping me fight that helped me push through the depression, the anxiety, the mental health aspects that I was unsure of how to find something to help me combat those.
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling became my ammunition. It became my weapon, and it's something that has improved my life in the last year more than I've ever improved at all. Honestly, I mean, the first step of my life getting better was getting into recovery, was becoming clean and sober. But then wrestling happened, and I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here.
Yeah, you are.
But God damn, that turned my shit around. Wrestling just took over my life, and I could not imagine my life any other way without it.
Well, I, for one, am very happy that you are sober and that you did find wrestling, man.
And that's a lot of where the hope dealer moniker I wrestle with comes from, is I always told myself, if I ever got a platform to tell my story, I would, because in recovery, we say recover out loud, because my story, saying it out loud, can help those suffering in silence. So if I can use my platform and use my voice as a wrestler at any point that might help somebody, then and touch that one fan who might be struggling with their mental health or might be struggling with their addiction, and they see me as somebody who's beaten that and is achieving things in life that I never thought I would ever achieve, then I feel like I've done my job by helping that one person.
I love the positivity behind you, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Well, can you tell everybody where they can get your Hope Dealer shirts?
Yes, I just actually ran out, so give me a little bit of time, but I'm getting some more. You can get them at any show that I'm at, so please come out, buy tickets. That's how I eat. And you get them off of if you message me on Facebook, my Instagram, or my Twitter. I'm working on looking into getting on Pro Wrestling Tees, but I suck with technology.
Well, as soon as you do get on there, you'll have to let us know, because we want to share it on all of our podcast platforms and all that stuff, too, to make sure people can get one once you do get on there.
I'll definitely make sure I get the word out.
Well, listen, man, what kind of upcoming shows you got for the rest of the year here?
I've got a few of them coming up. I will be going to be stopping by X-Site this weekend. I'm really excited for that show because you got Loke and Arcade kind of coming to blows and they're having like G-Raver and Masada there. So that's going to be a really exciting match to watch. So I'm excited that I'll be there. I have a show in Ohio coming up for NCW, National Championship Wrestling on the 20th. I will be going to Nickel City on the 3rd of December, and ESW will be going on November 27th. 27th, yeah. Sorry.
Awesome. All right, cool, man. Well, one more time before I let you go for good here, just tell everybody what your social media names are so that they are definitely following you. And any first-time people who are hearing about you can get on there and start checking out your flyers and your T-shirts and all that stuff.
Of course. You can reach me on Instagram at the only Cerin Rahne. CERINRAHNE. There's another one out there for Instagram that is just Cerin Rahne. I got hacked. Do not do that one. That is a bad guy.
You know, I saw that happened to you, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. I had built a decent following. I lost it completely. So if anybody wants to add me, please do. That would be great. Then you can find me over on Twitter at @CerinRahne or just on Facebook for Cerin Rahne as well.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it, even though I had to reschedule on you last minute yesterday. So, thank you.
It's understandable. I'm just glad you're doing better, and I appreciate you having me, Robbie.
Zodiac Killer.
I left some of them bleeding. I left some of them screaming. Bring a rough death this is.
All right, rockers. So again, follow Cerin Rahne on all social media platforms. And he's moving up quick. He's got a busy schedule. He's hitting a bunch of different states. So keep in the loop on him. Follow him. And grab yourself a Hope Dealer shirt. And I just love the positivity that he's got. And, you know, he's sober. He's kicking ass, and wrestling is doing wonders for him, and I couldn't be more proud of the guy. So, thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next time on the All Bets Are Off podcast.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.